Hello viewers, welcome to EDU-audioteller. So today's story is going to be an ISC short story named Quality. It's written by John Galsworthy. So before starting the audiobook of the story, let's go through about the story. Let's know a bit about the story exactly. So Quality by John Galsworthy was first published in the Inn of Tranquility Studies and Essay in 1912. The story, written in first-person narrative form, an unknown narrator's perspective, is a beautiful depiction of today's cruel reality. The plot is set on the two traditional German shoemakers who did not compromise with quality and craftsmanship, but met the sad fate of extinction at an age of marketing where success is determined by advertisement and not by work. The story shows what our business world has become now. More the advertising, more the earning. No one pays attention to the poor traditional craftsmen who value art and quality of products. They have to suffer even though they don't deserve that. The main theme is commitments to one's work, to one's passion. Every worker is an artist if he loves his work and is immersed in it. The Gessler brothers' commitment towards their work was really touching. For them, the struggles, the hardships are nothing as long as they keep on doing their work. The ending of the story is quite sad. There is a sense of loss and grief, and that is what the author wants the readers to feel. For the true craftsmen like the Gessler brothers, who value quality, as the title suggests. Now, Quality tells the story of Mr. Gessler, who is a German shoemaker, and although he makes the best boots in London, his business fails because he is unable to compete with the big companies around him. These companies earn customers through quality, not through quality but through advertisement, and Mr. Gessler is ultimately not believing in promoting or advertising his things. But definitely he makes fine quality boots. So before starting the story, let's know again a bit about the author also. John Galsworthy. John Galsworthy, born on August 14, 1867 in Kingston Hill, Surrey, England, and died on January 31st, 1933 in Grove Lodge, Hampstead, was an English novelist and playwright, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1932. He came from a newly rich upper middle class commercial family. Trained as a lawyer, he switched to writing as soon as his father died. His works mainly deal with the social class system prevalent at that time, concentrating specially on the upper middle class to which his own family belonged. Although he treated his characters sympathetically, he highlighted their narrow-minded snobbiness and suffocating moral values, projecting their acquisitive tendency as morally wrong. At the same time, he also campaigned for a variety of causes such as women's rights and animal protection through his writing. All these issues, plus many more related to the hardship faced by the people in changing times, are to be found in his short stories as well. John Galsworthy is best remembered for his trilogy, The Forsyte Saga, chronicling the life of three generations in upper middle class extended family. The Skin Game 1920 and Loyalties 1922 are two of his best known plays. His play Justice led to prison reforms. When in 1917 he was offered a knighthood, he rejected it, saying writing was an author's greatest reward. However, he later accepted the Order of Merit and also the Nobel Prize. In a narrative story, Quality, published in 1912, Galsworthy possessed the issue of hardship that true artists have to face in a shallow, money-mad world that attracts little importance to the ideals of quality and excellence. Quality by John Galsworthy. I knew him from the days of my extreme youth because he made my father's boot. Inhabiting with his elder brother, two little shops let into one in a small by street now no more but then most fashionably placed in the West End, The tenement had a certain quiet distinction. There was no sign upon its face that he made for any of the royal family. Merely his own German name of Gessler brothers, and in the window a few pair of boots. I remember that it always troubled me to account for those unvarying boots in the window, for he made only what was ordered, reaching nothing down, and it seemed so inconceivable that what he made could ever have failed to fit. Had he bought them to put there? That too seemed inconceivable. He would never have tolerated in his house leather on which he had not worked himself. Besides, they were too beautiful. The pair of pumps, so inexpressibly slim, the patent leathers with cloth tops making water come in one's mouth, the tall brown riding boots with marvelous sooty glow, as if thou knew they have been worn 100 years. Those pair could only have been made by one who saw before him the sole of boot. So truly were they prototypes, incarnating the very spirit of all footgear. These thoughts, of course, came to me later, though even when I was promoted to him at the age of perhaps 14, some inkling haunted me of the dignity of himself and brother. For to make boots, such boots as he made, seems to me then, and still seems to me, mysterious and wonderful. I remembered well my shy remark one day while stretching out to him my youthful foot, "Isn't it awful hard to do, Mr. Gessler?" And his answer, given with a sudden smile from out of the sardonic redness of his beard, "It's an art." Himself he was a little as if made from leather, with his yellow crinkly face and crinkly reddish hair and beard, and neat folds slanting down his cheeks to the corner of his mouth, and his guttural and one-toned voice, for leather is a sardonic substance, and stiff and slow of purpose, and that was the character of his face. Save that his eyes, which were grey-blue, had in them the simple gravity of one secretly possessed by the ideal. His elder brother was so very like him, though watery, paler in every way, with a great industry, as sometimes in early days I was not quite sure of him until the interview was over. Then I knew that it was he if the words, "I will ask my brother," has not been spoken, and that if they had, it was his elder brother. When one grew old and wild and ran up bills, one somehow never ran them up with Gessler brothers. It would not have seemed becoming to go in there and stretch out one's foot to that blue iron spectacled glance, owing him for more than say 2 pairs, just the comfortable reassurance that one was still his client. For it was not possible to go to him very often. His boots lasted terribly, having something beyond the temporary, some as it were a sense of boot stitched into them. One went in, not as into most shops in the mood of "please serve me and let me go," but restfully as one enters the church, and sitting on a single wooden chair waited for there was never anybody there. Soon over the top edge of that sort of well, rather dark and smelling soothingly of leather, which formed the shop, there would be seen his face, or that of his elder brother, peering down, a guttural sound, and the tip-tap of the brass slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs, and he would stand before one, without coat, a little bent-in leather apron, with sleeves turned back, blinking as if awakened from some dream of boots, and like an owl surprised in daylight and annoyed at this interruption. And I would say, "How do you do, Mr. Gessler? Could you make me a pair of Russia leather boots?" Without a word he would leave me, retiring whence he came into the other portion of the shop, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade. Soon he would come back, holding in his thin veined hand a piece of gold brown leather, with eyes fixed on it. He would remark, "What a beautiful piece." When I too had admired it, he would speak again, "When do you want them?" And I would answer, "Oh, as soon as you conveniently can." And he would say, "Tomorrow, fortnight," or if he were his elder brother, "I'll ask my brother." Then I would murmur, "Thank you, good morning, Mr. Gessler." "Good morning," he would reply, still looking at the letter in his hand, and as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip-tap of his glass slippers restoring him up the stairs to his dream of boots. But if it were some new kind of footgear that he had not yet made me, then indeed he would observe ceremony, divesting me of my boot and holding it long in his hand, looking at it with eyes at once critical and loving, as if recalling the glow with which he had created it, and rebuking the way in which one had disorganized this masterpiece. Then, placing my foot on a piece of paper, he would two or three times tickle the outer edge with a pencil and pass his nervous fingers over my toe, feeling himself into the heart of my requirements. I cannot forget that day on which I had occasionally to say to him, "Mr. Gessler, that last pair of town walking boots creaked, you know." He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, "It should not have creaked." "It did, I am afraid." "You got them well before they found themselves?" At that he lowered his eyes, as if hunting for memory of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. "Send them back," he said. "I'll look at them." A feeling of compassion for my creaking boots surged up in me. So well could I imagine the sorrowful long curiosity of regard which he would bend on them. "Some boots," he said slowly, "are bad from birth. If I can do something with them, I take them off your bill. If I can do nothing with them, I will take them off your bill." Once only I went absent-mindedly into a shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firm. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior integument of my foot. At last he said, "Those are not my boots." The tone was not one of anger, nor of sorrow, not even of contempt, but there was in it something quite that froze the blood. He put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot, endeavoring to be fashionable, was not quite comfortable. "It hurts you here," he said. "Those big firms have no self-respect. Trash." And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. It was the only time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and hardships of his trade. "They get it all," he said. "They get it by advertisement, not by work. They take it away from us, who loaf our boots. It comes to this presently. I have no work. Every year it gets less, you will see." And looking at his lined face, I saw things I had never noticed before. Bitter things and bitter struggle. And what a lot of grey hairs there seemed suddenly in his red beard. As best I could, I explained the circumstances of the purchase of those ill-omened boots, but his face and voice made so deep impression that during the next few minutes I ordered many pairs. Nemesis fell. They lasted more terribly than ever, and I was not able conscientiously to go to him for nearly 2 years. When at last I went, I was surprised to find that outside one of the 2 little windows of his shop, another name was painted, also that of a bootmaker, making of course for the royal family. The old familiar boots, no longer in dignified isolation, were huddled in a single window. Inside, the now contracted well of the one little shop was more scented and darker than ever, and it was longer than usual too before a face peeped down, and the tip-tap of the glass slippers began. At last he stood before me, and gazing through those rusty iron spectacles said, "Mr. Isn't it Mr. Gessler," I stammered. But your boots are really too good. You know, see, these are quite decent still. And I stretched out to him my foot. He looked at it. Yes, he said, people do not want good boots, it seems. To get away his reproachful eyes and voice, I hastily remarked, what have you done to your shop? He answered quietly, it was too expensive. Do you want some boots? I ordered 3 pairs, though I had only wanted 2, and quickly left. I do not know quite what feeling of being part in his mind of a conspiracy against him, or not perhaps so much against him as against his idea of boot. One does not, I suppose, care to feel like that, for it was again many months before my next visit to the shop. Paid, I remember, with the feeling, oh well, I cannot leave the old boy, so here goes. Perhaps it will be his elder brother. For his elder brother, I knew, had not character enough to reapproach me even dumbly. And to my relief in the shop, there did appear to be his elder brother, handling a piece of leather. Well, Mr. Gessler, I said, how are you? He came close and peered at me. I'm pretty well, he said slowly. But my elder brother is dead. And I saw that it was indeed himself. But how aged and pale! And never before had I heard him mention his brother. Much shocked, I murmured, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, he answered, he was a good man. He made a good boot, but he is dead. And he touched the top of his head, where the hair had suddenly gone as thin as it had been on that of his poor brother, to indicate, I suppose, the cause of death. He could not get over losing the other shop. Do you want any boots? And he held up the leather in his hand. It's a beautiful piece. I ordered several pairs. It was very long before they came, but they were better than ever. One simply could not wear them out, and soon after that I went abroad. It was over a year before I was again in London. At the first shop I went to was my old friend's. I had left a man of 60, I came back to one of 75. Pinched and worn and tremulous, who genuinely this time did not at first know me. Oh, Mr. Gessler, I said, sick at heart, how splendid your boots are. See, I have been wearing these pairs nearly all the time I have been abroad, and they are not half worn out, are they? He looked long at my boots, a pair of Russia leather, and his face seems to regain steadiness. Putting his hand on my instep, he said, do they bit you there? And I had trouble with that pair of I remember. I assured him that they had fitted beautifully. Do you want any boots? He said. I can make them quickly. It is a slack time. I answered, please, please, I want boots all around, every kind. I will make a fresh model. Your foot must be bigger. And with utter slowness, he traced round my foot and felt my toes, only once looking up to say, did I tell you my brother was dead? To watch him was painful, so feeble that he groaned. I was glad to get away. I had given those boots up when one evening they came. Opening the parcel, I set the 4 pairs out in a row. Then one by one I tried them on. There was no doubt about it. In shape and fit, in finish and quality of leather, they were the best he had ever made me. And in the mouth of one of the town walking boots I found his bill. The amount was the same as usual, but it gave me quite a shock. He had never before sent in it till quarter day. I flew downstairs and wrote a cheque and posted it at once with my own hand. A week later, passing the little street, I thought I would go in and tell him how splendid the new boots fitted. But when I came to where his shop had been, his name was gone. Still, there in the window were the slim pumps with the patent leather with cloth tops, the sooty riding boots. I went in, very much disturbed. In the 2 little shops again made into one was a young man with an English face, Mr. Gessler, I said. He gave me a strange, gratiating look. No, sir, he said. No, but we can attend to anything with pleasure. We have taken the shop over. You have seen our name, no doubt, next door. We make for some very good people. Yes, yes, I said. But, Mr. Gessler? Oh, he answered. Dead. Dead? But I only received these boots from him last Wednesday week. Ah, he said. A shocking go. Poor old man starved himself. Good God. Slow starvation, the doctor called it. You see, he went to work in such a way, would keep the shop on, would not have a soul touch his boots except himself. When he got an order, it took him such a time. People won't wait. He lost everybody, and there he did sit, going on and on. I will say that for him, not a man in London made a better boot. But look at the competition. He never advertised. Would have the best leather too, and do it all himself. Well, there it is. What could you accept with his ideas but starvation? That may be a bit flowery, as the saying is, but I know. But I know myself he was sitting over his boots day and night to the very last, you see. I used to watch him, never gave himself time to eat, never had a penny in the house, all went in rent and leather. How he lived so long, I don't know. He regular let his fire go out. He was a character, but he made good boots. Yes, I said, he made good boots. And I turned and went out quickly, for I did not want that youth to know that I could hardly see. So here it was the story, the quality. So if you guys want more videos upon its explanation or question answer, please do write us on the comment section. Please do like the video and subscribe our channel and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching.